Chair Carbonell, President LeBlanc, Provost Maltzman, distinguished colleagues, friends and family members, class of 2018. I'm deeply grateful to the faculty and the Board of Trustees for this very special honor. This is the 11th time I've been on stage for a GW commencement, but the very first time I've been on the receiving rather than the giving end of the ceremony. I have to say it's a very humbling experience. When I traveled over the course of a decade across the country and around the world, meeting alumni, parents, and friends of the university, the question I was asked more often than any other was, what had most surprised and impressed me about GW? Was it the location? Well, really, what institution in the world can beat this as a location for its commencement? Was it the front row seat in the theater of history that we, more than any other American university, could offer our students? The opportunity, for instance, to hear directly from the President of France on his very first state visit? Was it the breadth and complexity of a university with a dozen schools and a student body approaching 30,000? Or the many remarkable ways in which our faculty members marry theory and practice? My answer was always the same, and it still is. What impressed me more than anything else was our students. You've heard a little bit about that from Minu today. You'll understand what I mean. I know my wife Diane, who's here, along with my daughter Sarah, her husband Ephraim, and their 3 young daughters would agree. In my previous job as the provost of another institution, I spent most of my time with faculty. And enjoyable as that can be, distinguished colleagues, and it really can be enjoyable, it can't quite match the energy and inspiration that a president inevitably draws from the students who come year after year to this great university in the heart of the greatest capital city in the world, and who come because they care about this nation and the many other nations from which we draw them, and because they want to learn how to change the world. Just last week, I had an opportunity to meet 4 students, all women as it happens, who had just finished or were just beginning projects applying what they learned in the classroom to solving real-world problems and making a difference in the lives of others. One was a junior who had developed a program for addressing food waste in Washington schools and using that opportunity to expose public school students to the deep connections between social, environmental, and food justice. Another, who graduates today with a master's in public health, had just returned from India, where she worked in a program to persuade young boys to support the education of their sisters and their female cousins. A third is studying the resiliency of international students in the Alexandria schools right across the Potomac River, students who face the challenge of learning English and making their way in a new culture. And the fourth is developing a database, a mapping project, and mobile application to help Native American families and tribal leaders address the tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women in the US and Canada. I was no longer surprised to encounter such students, but I was as moved and inspired as always. I earnestly hope that all you who are graduating today, whether or not you undertook individual projects of that kind during your time at GW, will carry that spirit of service into whatever you do next. As I said 10 years ago and meant every time, graduates, you are our future. You really are. Thank you.